Now, meanwhile, we're asking if we're going to have a proper invasion of Canada, we need to have a good Secretary of Defense. Fortunately, we have Pete Hegseth, who's been nominated, and now we see that he's been meeting with people around the Senate, including Senator Ted Cruz. And in case you were wondering, yes, we have a clip of his podcast because he does have one. Now, great meeting with President-elect Trump's Secretary of Defense nominee, Pete Hegseth. Pete has a decorated military career and a stellar academic background. He's laser focused on ending the wokeness that has overtaken the armed forces. Under his leadership, the DoD will be returning to making America and our allies safe around the globe. And you see the two absolute required photos that you have to take in an event like this, the handshake, boom, nicely done, and the conversation about serious issues. Well done. Just look into my eyes. Should I say anything? Not really. Are we recording video? No. So I just have to stand here? Yeah, they're going to take a photo. Okay. But don't move so much. Well, you keep asking me questions. I'll stop now so you can take the photo. Stop then. I've stopped already. Will you just take the photo? Gentlemen! All right, takes the photo. You can see it's just like a fun thing. That's what happens in Congress. And so that happened. Then we got reaction. Ted Cruz, wearing the same jacket, is now showing up on Fox News. And here's what he had to say about that.
In that crowd in particular, she's being cheered for saying conservative common sense principles. Yes, we ought to deport illegal aliens.
But that was back in 2008, to be fair. So
true, but she didn't believe it then either. She was lying then. She'd be lying now. The Democrat Party has decided illegal aliens are their future, and they want as many of them as possible. But it really is striking as you play that video. Presumably that's a Democrat audience, and you look at what their cheers are. Even then, they're not cheering on amnesty. They're cheering on deport the criminals, and anyone here should learn English. That is, listen, people want America. They want American borders respected. They want their families kept safe. And I think there was no issue more consequential to the election in November than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's open borders.
All right, so that's what he said about the borders. He was also meeting with Pete Hegseth, so Ted Cruz is making the rounds. Now, speaking of Pete Hegseth and global conflicts, another senator called Josh Hawley was asked about Hegseth and in particular Ukraine. And you may have seen the headlines that Biden is trying to unload the piggy bank as quickly as possible to send more money to Ukraine on his way out, because everything's about Ukraine and covering up whatever went down there in 2014 with his son Hunter, who just got pardoned. So here is Hawley saying that we got to get a rein in on this money.
This is why they lost the election in part.
Yeah, why shouldn't the interests of the American people be the absolute number one goal? I know it is for Donald Trump, which is why Joe Biden is trying to tie his hands. And Laura, listen, he's also asking, Biden is, for Congress to appropriate even more money to Ukraine beyond what he's sending him now. He wants billions more. That's in his end of the year funding request. It is totally ridiculous. It's time for him to admit that his Ukraine policy has been a total disaster. It's in complete shambles. And I tell you, Donald Trump cannot get to office fast enough. We need him now to bring peace to the region and to make sure America's interests are put first.
Yeah, that's right. And end the dying. End the dying. All right, we have to end the dying. We can see that they're now jumping on to Pete Hegseth. The CNN was going through it this morning, maybe this morning, and they were saying this, that he's got a bad history. They brought on Colbert because people apparently care what he thinks for some reason, even though he's been wrong about everything. But they're digging into his past. He's apparently got some allegations, as always pops up. They find them or create them. And here's what CNN was reporting today from Cassie Turtleneck.
Sexual impropriety and alcohol abuse by Trump's choice for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, adding to the swirl of controversy around Trump's proposed cabinet. Trump's controversial pick setting up what could be significant fights on Capitol Hill to get these key nominations approved. Now, some top Republican senators say they are open to bypassing FBI background checks for Trump's picks. Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Nobody trusts the FBI.
The Senate committee that will review Pete Hegseth's nomination, telling CNN that proposition speaks volumes.
No practical reason to avoid a background check, except maybe
yes, there is.
They have something to hide.
No, it's the FBI. The FBI raided Trump's house. We don't trust them at all. Why should we give them full license to investigate and vet our nominees so they can make stuff up or use the investigation itself as a pretext to do something else, right? To go in and find or create something and issue warrants and create a Russian connection where there isn't one, right? We did a little background check and we found out that he got a text message from somebody named Vladimir one time. What? So he's a Russian asset. Remember, like, I'm not joking. You remember they said like the Yoda phones, there were IP addresses that were being backlinked and backtraced from New Star, which was Richard Rodney Jaffe's ordeal with Michael Sussman. Remember that? They were making stuff up. So no, we're not going to give the FBI license to look over Trump's people and then come back and say, look what we found. No thanks, Blumenthal.
Just saying, common sense tells you when someone doesn't want that kind of vetting or check.
What does common sense tell you when they pardon your son for 10 years? That encompasses a huge swath of crimes that were not even alleged.
It's done routinely. There's something to hide. And there are a lot of indications that Pete Hegseth has quite a bit to hide.
All right, joining us now, former Trump White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci.
No one cares. All right, thanks, Scaramucci. But we have other things to do. So you can see The View also has been ripping on him. And so I think this, I don't know what number note this is that they have to read. Another legal correction read on The View yesterday about Pete Hegseth. They keep making slanderous statements about him, and then they have to come and correct the record. Here's how that went down.
I see you. I see you over there.
I have a very quick statement.
It's not going to be that quick.
Pete Hegseth has denied any wrongdoing. His lawyer said he paid the woman in 2023 to head off the threat of a baseless lawsuit. No charges were ever brought.
You rushed me for that? We'll be right back.
Man, the energy in that segment is so negative. It's like, how can anybody even watch the show? She's lecturing her producers now? Lecturing them? You rushed me for that? Yeah, for that statement, because when you guys are sitting there running your mouths, you're getting very close to breaking the law, right? And opening up a lawsuit against you, which is why your lawyers are pounding the table saying, please air this in response because you're nervous. Yeah, they have to rush you so you get that in because you're talking recklessly. So in addition to that, we have more reaction from other senators. Here was Senator Tuberville, who is a longtime senator in the halls, taking a bunch of questions you can see here about Pete Hegseth himself.
We had a good meeting. I've known Pete for a while. He's going to be a great Secretary of Defense. He understands it. As I tell him, we don't need a general officer, admiral, or a person of high command. We need a drill sergeant in the military. We need somebody to straighten the military out, to get the woke, the DEI affiliation out and go from there. Pete's the type of guy that he's going to work. He's got great work ethic. He's very smart. He understands the business side as well as the military side. Been in 20 years. He's actually fought in wars. He is, but he is a good age too. Somebody that can relate to the young men and women that we need to recruit in the military. Our military right now is running on fumes because we cannot get enough men and women into the military to want to fight for the United States of America because they don't want to get into a military that's woke, that doesn't believe in the past reference of what this country teaches our military. We need a machine that's going to protect the country and its allies.
Yes, and a change from the current trajectory, I think, will be useful in reinvigorating, rekindling some of the enthusiasm about being a part of the American military force, being part of the world's most elite fighting force, not being part of the most equitable fighting force. So Trump is now also making the rounds around the world. He's going to be making the trip over to Paris for the reopening of Notre Dame. And man, it looks beautiful. And I was very upset when I was younger in college. I had the opportunity to go and visit, walk inside, walk throughout the cathedral, and it was a beautiful sight. So when it came burning down, it was a horrendous scene. And you can see Trump is going to be back there. So it is an honor to announce that I will be traveling to Paris, France on Saturday to attend the reopening of the magnificent and historic Notre Dame Cathedral, which has been fully restored after a devastating fire 5 years ago. President Emmanuel Macron has done a wonderful job ensuring that Notre Dame has been restored to its full level of glory, and even more, it will be a very special day for all. And there were some beautiful pictures. I don't know if this article has it. So that was the devastation. And if you remember, after the fire went down, this golden cross survived the flames, and it was basically glowing there, shining in glory. So what has happened is they've restored the place, and there'll be a grand opening. Hopefully there are some photos here. There are not, obviously, because why would they put those in the article? That would be a smart thing to do. But that is what's happening. Trump will be annexing Canada very soon, hopefully. We'll see. But we have to be very careful and cautious about this. We don't want it to become a blue state. So we'll have to figure out what to do with the Liberals. And there's good precedent in Canada to basically do whatever you want with their citizens. Remember, they came after the Freedom Convoy truckers, seized their bank accounts, threatened to take away their kids, wrecked their personal property, destroyed their vehicles, threatened and arrested them, actually ransacked their own citizens and their own populace for peacefully protesting against insane government policy. So if that's the standard there in Canada, we'll have to figure out what to do with all the Liberals up there, starting with Trudeau, once America liberates our friends in the North. All right.